Greetings, my friends. Today I will tell you a story that will have you laughing, gasping, and on the edge of your seats. It is a tale of love, trickery, and unexpected twists set in our very own town. Let me set the scene for you. Our village, nestled in the hush greenery of the Nigerian countryside, was a place where everyone knew each other's business. It was a tight-knit community where gossip traveled faster than the wind, and news, whether good or bad, spread like wildfire. In this village, there lived two young teachers, Emeka and Okan. Both were intelligent and hard-working, but when it came to matters of the heart, they were as clueless as a goat in a cassava farm. Emeka was tall and lanky, with a face that reminded one of a startled antelope. He was the type of a man who would trip over his own feet if a beautiful woman walked by. Okan, on the other hand, was short and stocky, with a boisterous laugh that could be heard from one end of the village to the other. His confidence was as big as his belly, but when it came to wooing the ladies, he was as smooth as a ruffled chicken. Now, in our village, there was a young woman named Adana, and oh, what a beauty she was! With skin as smooth as polished ebony and eyes that sparkled like the stars in the night sky, she was the envy of every single woman in the village. Men would lose their senses just by catching a glimpse of her radiant smile. It was no surprise then that both Emeka and Okan found themselves smitten by Adana's charms. They would spend their days dreaming about her and their nights tossing and turning, unable to sleep as thoughts of her consumed their minds. The competition between the two teachers was fierce, and neither was willing to back down. Emeka would attempt to woo Adana with his vast knowledge of poetry and literature, reciting verse after verse in an attempt to win her heart. Okan, on the other hand, would try to impress her with boisterous personality and tales of his imaginary adventures. One day, Emeka decided to take a bold step. He gathered all the courage he could muster and approached Adana as she was fetching water from the village well. "My dearest Adana," he said, his voice trembling like a leaf in the wind, "your beauty is like the first rays of dawn, painting the sky with a radiant glow." Adana looked at him, her brows furrowed in confusion, and replied, "Emeka, my friend, I appreciate your kind words, but I do not understand what you are trying to say." Emeka, flustered and embarrassed, stammered an apology and scurried away, his face redder than a ripe tomato. Not to be outdone, Okan decided to make his move the next day. He spotted Adana in the village market and puffed out his chest like a strutting rooster. "Adana, my love!" he bellowed, his voice echoing through the market. "I have traveled to the ends of earth and faced the fiercest beasts, but none have been as fearsome as the monster that guards my heart, a heart that beats only for you." Adana stared at him, bewildered, and burst into laughter. "Okan, you are a funny man," she said, wiping tears of mirth from her eyes. "But I fear your stories are as tall as the baobab tree." Okan slunk away, his tail between his legs, as the villagers roared with laughter at his expense. The two teachers continued their pursuit of Adana, each attempt more outrageous than the last. Emeka wrote her poems that made little sense, while Okan would regale her with tales of his supposed heroics, which grew more fantastical by the day. Just when it seemed like the rivalry between the two men would never end, a new suitor entered the fray. His name is Obi, and he was the wealthiest farmer in the village. With his vast acres of land and bountiful harvests, Obi was a catch that any woman would be lucky to have. Emeka and Okan watched in horror as Obi began showering Adana with gifts and attention. He would bring her the finest fabrics and the sweetest fruits and whisper promises of a life of luxury and comfort. The two teachers tried their best to compete, but their meager salaries could not compare to Obi's wealth. Emeka would present Adana with wilted flowers, while Okan would offer her tales of his imaginary riches. In the end, Adana's heart was won over by Obi's generosity and the prospect of a life free from want. She agreed to become his wife, much to the dismay of Emeka and Okan. On the day of the wedding, the entire village gathered to celebrate the union of Adana and Obi. Emeka and Okan sat in the back, their faces long and their hearts heavy with disappointment. As the ceremony drew to a close and the newlyweds exchanged their vows, a sudden commotion erupted at the back of the crowd. A voice rang out loud and clear, Stop the wedding! Al's eyes turned to see a stranger, a man with a face as hard as granite and eyes that burned with fury. That man is a liar and a thief, the stranger bellowed, pointing an accusing finger at Obi. He stole my land and my wealth, and now he seeks to steal an innocent woman's heart with his ill-gotten gains. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd as the stranger revealed the truth about Obi's supposed riches. It was all a lie, a carefully constructed facade to win Adana's affections. Adana, her eyes brimming with tears, turned to Obi in disbelief. "Is this true?" she asked, her voice trembling. Obi, his face flushed with shame, could only nod in silent admission. In that moment, Adana's heart broke, and she realized that she had been blinded by the promise of wealth and status. She had overlooked the genuine affections of Emeka and Okan, two men who had loved her for who she truly was. With heavy heart, Adana called off the wedding and sent Obi away, a broken and disgraced man. As the dust settled and the villagers dispersed, Emeka and Okan approached Adana, their heads hung low. "We are sorry for our foolish attempts to win your heart," Emeka said, his voice heavy with regret. Okan nodded in agreement, for once at a loss for words. Adana looked at the two men, her eyes shining with newfound understanding. "My dear friends," she said, taking their hands in hers, "it is I who should apologize. I was blinded by the promise of riches and failed to see the true wealth that stood before me, the wealth of your kind hearts and unwavering affections." From that day forward, Emeka, Okan, and Adana formed an unbreakable bond of friendship. The two men put aside their rivalry and found solace in Adana's company. And though they never did win her heart in the romantic sense, they gained something far more precious, a friendship that would last a long time, and a story that would be told for generations to come. So, my friends, let this tale be a reminder that true love is not found in riches or grand gestures, but in the simple joys of companionship and beauty that lies within the human heart. I believe you enjoyed the story. Kindly subscribe to our YouTube channel for more interesting and educative tales. Goodbye.